Hey, you like cars? Yes. We are here again. Another week, another pod. It's Cameron Biggs, your host. It's CarQuicks Podcast. Welcome. Before we get that started the right way, you know what time it is. Episode 103, CarQuicks Podcast. Welcome. How are y'all doing? How's everybody out there? Your loved ones, the children, the family, the friends. How are the goals? How is life going? As I always say every week, hope is going well, because I'm glad that you came here today to listen to what I got to talk about some cars, and to comment and give me your opinions as well on it, because that's what I like to see after the episodes are shot, to talk to the people, see what they're talking about, see how they're feeling. I'm doing good. I have nothing to complain about. I got the Ferrari hat on today. I was watching the Belgian GP, though it was kind of a snooze fest, not gonna lie. Okay, it was a bit late because they had to do a rain delay. It's like an hour and a half or something. I fell asleep, woke back up. They still weren't racing. I was like, yo, come on. But it was cool. I'm a Ferrari fan, Lewis Hamilton fan, McLaren fan, so I like watching the races. Hamilton was like, what, P18 to P7, considering the disastrous weekend he was having. But hey, got some points. Charles was on the podium, so that's always good for the team as far as their Constructors Cup goes. But to not get into an F1 thing, because I listen to F1 podcasts, and they do a much better job at all the intricacies of F1, so go follow some of them. Not me, because I'm not doing F1 racing podcasting any justice right now. I'm just mentioning what I was listening to this weekend and what I was watching. But to get to the cars, to get into what news we have, it's a little bit of a short week, but I got some stuff to talk about, some other things I want to kind of dive into, and I might do another long form video about what I'm going to speak to later in this episode. But to start off, let's talk about Kia. So Kia is releasing a modular EV. Now, if you know about anything with modular anything, right? Whether it's a cell phone, whether it's a game console, a TV, a car, modular EVs are really something that gets brought up a lot and gets a lot of fanfare and a lot of people wanting to invest in it. The Slate truck is one of those things, okay? The Slate truck has a simple chassis. It has a certain configuration. It's kind of the base of it. And then from there, we can throw in like a 5-seater. We could throw in a bed. We could throw in like almost a van. We can do all these things that help it turn into something else, or even later down the line, turn into something else that we need. So modularity inside of cars is something that the EV world is uniquely positioned to take advantage of, because inside of the normal like ICE-powered cars, you can't just be modular when you got engines and gas tanks and all these other functions that come with making a normal car. They have something coming out called the PV5, which stands for Platform Beyond Vehicle, which is kind of like their new lineup for this van. I say van, but don't think minivan. Almost think like Sprinter van if you look by this image right here of what it looks like. The whole point of this whole entire van, this whole entire vehicle, is that it can change it to whatever you need it to be. So the base structure of it is a front row, 2-seater in the front, like a normal van, like think like a Sprinter or a cargo van, but behind it is where you can kind of have some fun. You can do a 2-captain, 2-3 rows with captain chairs in the front. Later on, they're going to work with like medical companies and make ones for people that need wheelchairs or disabilities. They got ones that you could think of for like doing cargo, for delivery, and all those things can be mounted into the same vehicle. So, I mean, there's wild ideas, right? Somebody might think like, okay, I might need to haul some people today. The other day, I might need to go run and pick up some lumber. This day, I might need to go pick this up and pick these people up. So all these modular functions allow you to kind of change the configuration of the van however you need it to be. And one of the cool things is that the van has 3 battery packs. It's from 43 to 71 kilowatt hours, 160 horsepower, 185 foot-pounds of torque, and it's equivalent cost of $44,000 in the U.S. And the reason why I say in the U.S. is because it ain't coming here. Okay, that's unfortunately, when it comes to some of these ideas that these manufacturers have, a lot of times they're not going to come to the U.S. first, because we are a hard market to crack, especially when it comes to EVs, especially when it comes to anything brand new. And you're talking about modular, and you're talking about putting the infrastructure in, putting in the support you need from the dealerships. It's just a hard market to be in if you're trying to create something that's brand new. And so the reason why they're talking about the price point is because they're trying to show you what the difference is. And that's 44,000 in the US market would be the 43 kilowatt hour battery. Now, while that is inexpensive for modular, I don't know the price point what happens when you start adding in these configurations. When you start adding in a better battery, because 43 kilowatt hours is like, I don't know, 100 miles. It's not enough to warrant people to run there and say, I want to use this to support my family, use it to support my business. Because if you're not doing that last mile thing, or just in a radius that you can really pinpoint, I'm only doing 50 to 100 miles per day, it's going to be a hard sell. But the idea that it's actually coming to fruition is the big news here. Because most of the time when I see this, it's just a concept. It's just an idea of like, maybe one day we can do modular vehicles. The Slate truck is another example of that. If they deliver on what they're doing, and I've seen recent videos of people showing off the manufacturing and the factory, and they're serious about what they're doing. So once that comes to the light and you can go and buy one and you can actually say, I want to configure something different than what I had previously, then this idea becomes more and more people can start stepping into it. But Kia is already doing it, and they have it set up for the fact that you can have this inside of, I mean, if you're in the UK, you can have this set up kind of towards the end of this year. Don't know when the full price point or the full release date is going to be for it, but the idea that they even have this done from concept to production is already a big deal, and it's a big jump in this idea. So I want to see this happen. I want to see this succeed. I like the idea of modular vehicles in this space, especially for EVs, because passenger vehicles, commodity vehicles, everyday daily drivers, if there was a way to say, I want to put this part on, I mean, the same way people take the doors off of Wranglers, or take the roof off of any other vehicle that has that option. I mean, it's not like we aren't close to this idea. It's just that they're trying to shoe in something much bigger. I want a pickup truck. Tomorrow I want a van. I want an SUV. The next day I want a little truck that has a roof rack on it that can haul some ladders. It's that type of modular ideas that are starting to come into play. And if it does work for Kia, then maybe they come out slow walking into the US. Like I said, I know we're a hard market to deal with, but if they can make success outside of the US, they may just want to pilot it a little bit into the US and see, what do we think about this idea? So Kia has that coming out and they're working on it. But we also have some sad news because, man, if there's one thing that we will do, outside of not accepting such brand new ideas from certain manufacturers, we certainly will make sure a certain car or a certain model of car, or genre of car will start slowly dwindling out to be nothing. And that is the Acura TLX. It's over. It's done. Acura TLX is coming to an end of production at the end of this month, which is just a couple more days, a few more days, and the TLX will be no more. Not that there aren't still some on the market floating around, but if you want an Acura TLX, it's it. This is it. You better go get one now. And whatever's straggling around at new car lots or in the used lot, that's it. That's all we got. Whatever's left is what we have. And it's sad because another sports sedan goes away. And it's not like we have a lot of those options. We do not. And I'm not saying that they didn't necessarily price it kind of bad. And what I mean by that is that the TLX base price was at $45,000, which had like a 272 horsepower turbo 4, and then it went all the way up to a $60,000 355 horsepower turbo V6. On paper, 355 horsepower turbo V6 at 60,000 is in the range of those vehicles from companies like BMW and Cadillac and Mercedes and Lexus. It's in range. It's not like they were totally out of the ballpark. It's just that Acura, when you think about the TL from the original days, like the TL Type S, the 6-speed manual, I kind of feel like if the TLX had a manual option, it would have actually brought more enthusiasts into play. Like they would have been willing to say, you know what, I'm going to give you a shot and I'm going to play into it. I'm going to throw some mods in it. I'm going to introduce it into the aftermarket. The fact that it didn't have that option, but it did have all-wheel drive if you got to the higher end one. And I like the TLX. Like I've seen them. Especially love that blue color they put on them. And I did like the car, but I did know that the price point was a lot. It was a lot to consider for something that was kind of front wheel drive bias. It wasn't like a true rear wheel drive sports car, even though you had all wheel drive options. And I just think when the Integra Type S came out, it really just kind of put the nail in the coffin, right? Because if the Type S is over there is 300 and it's performing at a high level, then the difference, even though it's 55 extra horsepower, you talk about the extra weight, talk about the extra price. Some people might look at that and say it ain't enough to differentiate me from the Integra, especially when kind of design wise, not that the sedan was a sedan and the Integra is more like hatchback, fastback type look. I mean, one could argue that the Integra Type S looks a little bit better or just more of appealing to some people given how they look. I just think that was just my opinion on why I kind of just failed. And also, really, what really does it when it comes to sports sedans, honestly, and not just the opinion of me being a car enthusiast and wanting like a manual or maybe the price point being a little bit lower, because who doesn't want a lower price point, honestly? It's the fact that SUVs are what they're buying. People are going to Acura, they're buying MDXs and RDXs and ZDX and anything else that deals with an X and it has a lifted ride height and it has room for 3 rows or 2 rows or passengers and cargo. People are not buying sedans like that. They do buy sedans from certain manufacturers, like the Toyota Camry sells plenty of those. The Honda Accord sells plenty of those. But a sports sedan outside of the German and luxury brands that I just talked about, it's a hard sell from anybody else, especially for Acura, which is most people when they think luxury brands, they're not going to tell you Acura. That's not going to come to their line, even though they are a luxury brand, even though they are a notch above Honda. Honda and Acura are so close to each other that they haven't, to me, gotten to that separation that Lexus has achieved when it comes to Lexus and Toyota. Lexus has moved far enough away from Toyota that you're like, that's a Lexus. It's completely different. I think Acura still has closer ties to Honda that don't allow people to view them as like, hey, that is a complete separate idea, though it has the DNA from maybe a bigger parent company. And like I said, it's SUVs, right? Acura selling more SUVs is not a surprise. Like that just to me makes more sense. And maybe it introduces the TLX. Well, if they reintroduce the TLX, I can be for certain it'll be an SUV. The same way that they're about to release the RSX EV, which is an SUV, folks are going to be up in arms about that in general. I won't even be surprised if they bring the TLX back and they say it's going to be an SUV. Because they're just going to pull the name and they're going to say this is what we're going to do. I will not be surprised by that. Now, will it be a smart move? I wouldn't say to do that, but I'm just saying in general, considering what has normally happened when a brand takes away a car name and then brings it back later, they're going to do it in a model that has been a high seller. So if that's an SUV, if that's an EV, that's what it's going to be. Sports sedans, listen, Acura Integra is the only thing holding us down. And speaking about the Integra, actually, to kind of throw that in there, they actually updated the 2026 Integra. It gets a refresh. Not the Type S, even though I'm sure this might trickle down to the Type S, but the regular Integra gets a refresh on the outside where the grille is now paint matched, which some people don't like, but I was looking at the images you see here, and I'm not mad at the way that the painted grille looks on the Integra. Kind of think it flows in kind of nicely. And the Integra on the interior gets updated 9-inch screen for the infotainment. It gets a different materials on the dashboard, and it gets like a diamond-like texture pattern, they said. The interior, they get different like trims, like blue stitching, yellow stitching for certain models when matching with the paint, and just kind of a refresh of the things that are in there. Nothing with the power. The Integra is exactly the same. The Type S is not changing because it wasn't even mentioned in this refresh, but the regular Integra gets a refresh. The TLX goes away and we get refresh on the Integra. That kind of shows you where money is being made, right? If they're canceling the TLX, it just proves again, like I said, it's done with. Keeping along with this whole Honda Acura thing going on that I'm talking about, I do want to talk about the Prelude, even though I have mentioned it in previous podcasts. I've talked about the Prelude. I've talked about my opinion on it, but some news came out about the fact that it's going to be using the Civic Type R dual axis front suspension, which is the design that Honda created that allows a front wheel drive Civic Type R to perform and drive much, much better than you would suspect thinking of a front wheel drive hot hatch. And then it also has the Brembo brakes that the Civic Type R has. That's a lot of handling and a lot of braking in a Prelude that is going to be a sports hybrid, which uses a Civic hybrid powertrain, no manual, automatic, probably, I believe, a CVT type of transmission going on there, because you can't put a manual on a hybrid. It hasn't worked out well for people trying to do that, or even trying to design something like that. Hence why Honda did not do it. But there has been more opinions coming out about the Prelude, because funny enough, I've been talking about the Prelude back. I mean, it's been a while, but when they were at the Goodwood Festival of Speed, I realized that a lot of people, for the very first time when they drove it up the hill climb, is when they saw the Prelude for the first time. I've been talking about the Prelude for so long that I figured everybody realized that, one, it's a sports hybrid. One that's it looks like it is a coupe. It does look good. I think they did well with the design, but I do think that this will do well. And I know. When you look at this and how it looks in our heads, car enthusiasts, drivers, Manual Preservation Society members, I know when we see this, we're like, if that just had a manual and a turbo 4, or maybe just maybe a little upgraded motor from the Civic Si, this would have been just out of there. And you're not wrong. I don't think anybody's wrong with that opinion, because if you look at it and you say, take the Civic Si powertrain, because I talked about this well before they talked about it being a sports hybrid, saying if they take the Civic Si powertrain, boost it up like 30 horsepower or something, throw it into this coupe, we got a winner on our hands. But if I think about what Honda's trying to do with this car is that they're trying to just introduce people that wanted something sporty looking, handles well, drives well, but is easy to live with. I don't think they wanted to introduce another manual sports car, because they feel like if you want to introduce that level of engagement, then we got a Civic Type R to help feed that need. Or if you do want something that is kind of relaxed but still manual, we got a Civic Si to introduce you to that. It's just that obviously the Civic Si won't look as cool as the Prelude sitting next to it, because if you see the Prelude, you immediately think it's a sports car. So all the ideas of sports cars and handling and power and speed and engagement rush into your head, and then they're like, nope, so slow it on down now, buddy. I know it got Brembos, but it's still got a hybrid type powertrain, so we're still getting like 38 miles to the gallon, but you can brake really well. But what I do think this introduces, I don't think Honda's going to put those brakes and that suspension to waste. Meaning, could there be a Type S model? Could there be a version that's like a Type R one that's a little bit more higher powered? Possibly. I don't know if their hybrid powertrain could actually introduce more power to it. But if we have the suspension and the brakes to back up a high level of performance, I'm not going to throw away the idea that they could have introduced a higher performing version. And like I said, this is going to be for a certain person, a very specific target niche market. If you like Civic Type Rs, if you like the Si and you like the engagement of manual driving like myself, then this isn't going to be for you. But if you want to look good, if you like the styling first, and you love how it looks, but you don't want to deal with the manual, you would love the idea if it was efficient and still gave you a time to have a more sporty driving experience on the way home, or commuting, or taking it up a mountain road or something. That is where this kind of fits in. And that, like I said, that's a very niche thing. I kind of drilled that down to a very subset of small amount of people. But I don't think it'll do bad. If the aftermarket takes on, and I've said this before, if they take it on, like I took you all to salon and people making kits for it and it looks good and it's lower, listen, they're modifying Priuses with wide bodies, okay? Let's not knock the Prelude looking like it does now in coupe form to the idea of somebody slapping some T37s on it in a lip kit from Aim Gain and it looking proper, because that's all it's going to take for somebody to be convinced. If we got wide body kits for Priuses, then I can't knock the Prelude for what Honda's doing, because they gave us the Civic Type R and they've given us a high performing sport compact cars. But jumping into what's on my hat right here, Ferrari, they introduced something that has people just speculating. I want to have some fun with the speculation. And that is, they trademarked the name Ferrari 849 Testarossa. And usually, not that Ferrari doesn't own the trademark for Testarossa, they usually don't trademark a name unless there's something coming behind it, like a car or something. I don't know if this is introducing another iconic series car coming, like the Daytona SP3. And the word Testarossa in modern times, like, listen, I'm a Ferrari fan, okay, just by the car, but the Testarossa is iconic, okay? to think of a modern interpretation of the Testarossa, because my mind runs wild. We bring it back to V12, the V12 going. I mean, the V12's around. Are we putting it in the middle, mid-engine V12? I mean, we're doing it. We SP12, SP3 Daytona, SP1 Monza. I mean, we've done it. So if they're bringing back another iconic series, and that's what my brain says. So as soon as I saw that name, I said, aren't they due for another iconic series vehicle? They already have the Ferrari F80. That's their Halo hypercar, the best of the best when it comes to technology. And then they had the iconic series, just taking those older names, Daytona SP3, the Monza, all those things are talking about something from the past. So 849 Testarossa to me sounds like that's about to be another iconic series. And if it's an interpretation of the Testarossa in this day and age, from the people that have been designing those iconic series cars, we're in for something special. I don't know what it is. It's just cool speculation. I like the idea. I like how it sounds. I do think that Ferrari is probably putting it on that series, and we just got to wait and see. Now, speaking about those sports cars and what I was hinting at earlier, and I might shoot a video of this on my YouTube channel next to the GR Corolla and kind of do more of like an in-car type talking, but I'm gonna speak about what I'm talking about on this podcast right now, and that is about like sports cars or sport compact cars, fun cars, just in general. There was a few videos that I've seen. I saw 2 videos actually. One was from Dude in Blue. You've seen him before. He had this videos and it said boring. It was just talking and showed a picture of a 2003 Mustang Cobra and a 2025 Dodge Charger. Then there's another video from a gentleman. I forgot his name. I don't know if it was like Subaru dude or somebody. I'm gonna show his video right here too on the screen. And again, listen, get to the video portion of this podcast because you're missing out. Okay, YouTube, Spotify will hold you down. What they were speaking to was about an era of just a time when there was more fun cars. And I know exactly the era they're talking about. We can all reminisce about the glory days from like 2003 to like 2015 and just all the stuff that was out at that time. From Evos, SRT4s, WRXs, Caliber SRT4s, S2000s, Evos, and that's not even counting the American cars, Mustang Cobras, just that era of just really fun cars that were all about driving engagement. We weren't being plastered with gigantic screens on the dashboard. We weren't bombarded with technology over technology. A lot of the interiors were black, plain, and got to the point. It was about business. It was about the driver. The most exciting portion of some of the interiors was the gauges looked a certain way, but everything else was just for the driver. Manual transmission, simple interior. The Evo had roll down windows in the back, but power in the front. They didn't care about anything else other than the driver and whoever was driving next to them as far as their comfort goes. And what they were talking about is that we're in a time now where we kind of miss that era, like it doesn't exist anymore. And they are right to a degree. I have a little bit of a different opinion. I think that what has happened now is we're getting a very real life lesson on things like inflation, right? Because whenever they talk about these cars, they talk about how expensive cars are now. Like a new Mustang right now was like $60,000 to get it. I mean, if you want the proper V8 one, a GR Corolla is not the cheapest thing in the world. I own one, but I can understand people saying it's not cheap. And I'm like, it's not. It's basically like $40,000 to get a GR Corolla. If you want a Subaru WRX, you're spending that much. If you want a new anything, it's costing a certain amount of money to get into these cars. If you want a Civic Type R, it's over $40,000. Integra Type S. I mean, even a Mazda Miata in its more simplified version, even a Subaru BRZ, which you can get kind of those in a much lower price point in the 35 range. Some people still might say that's a lot. That's not what I'm used to. And when you get into the higher performance range of cars like BMW M3s and stuff, you're talking about 80, 70,000, 80. I mean, you start getting to near $100,000. I mean, it gets become unrealistic for a lot of people. And I get it. I agree with the fact that the price of cars is crazy, but I also do understand that a lot of this is kind of relative to inflation, unfortunately. If you think about in 2003, the Evo 8 came out. It got released into the US and didn't just come out, but it got released into the US. And I'm only going to speak about the US markets because that's what we can relate to as opposed to like cars that we can import and things that are in other countries. But it came out of 2003 for like $29,000. $29,000 in 2003 and 2025, if you take into account inflation, is something like $48,000, $48,000 to $49,000. That's where we're at. And that's the unfortunate part of it. The unfortunate part is that the economy and the things that have happened when it comes to the cost of things, the fact that you're not making the equivalent extra amount of money. In 2003, I did not have $30,000 to buy Evo 8, and I wanted one badly, okay? But I just got out of high school. There was no getting Evos for me, okay, at all. It was not gonna happen. And so, and I remember when like the STI first came to the US, I was like, oh man, that was like 30,000 to 33,000. Didn't have it. Okay. Did not have it. And so now, while I can get something like a GR Corolla now, it still takes a lot of effort. It still isn't something easy. And so when people talk about these cars that we had in the past, I always say what's happened now is that now we're in the middle of people like myself having jobs and careers and families and being able to afford something fun and realizing like it's still the equivalent cost. It just looks crazier now on paper. It just costs more and the options are limited. We just heard about the TLX going away as a sports sedan. The GR Corolla and what Toyota's doing with the GR86 and the BRZ and upcoming Celica, what Honda's doing with the Civic Type R, what Hyundai's doing with the Ioniq 5, when they're doing with the Elantra and even the Ioniq 5N, even though it's the EV. But what they're doing as far as the company that are trying to make fun cars, it ain't that many. And Ford making the Mustang is probably one of the few people that's still making a big powered V8 sports coupe. The Camaro's not around anymore. Dodge is trying to come back into their own relevancy, even though that they had it. But their new Charger with the EV isn't resonating the way it should be. So now we got this new one coming out with the twin turbo inline six. And we don't know what that's going to do. But that's still going to be a $60,000 car. It's not going to be something that's inexpensive. And the reason I mentioned that is because the video from the gentleman that from the Subaru guy, he was talking about the era of cars where it was just inexpensive, but they were fun. And I know that a lot of times we get into these battles on the internet about what things should be based on price or what you can buy, what can have more power. When I talk about my GR Corolla, I've had people comment and say, yo, you could take that money and go buy an N55 powered 335i and make 800 horse. And I'm always like, I don't care. I don't care. Okay. Like I know you can go and get out there and get a slew of cars and make all types of power. But the point of being a car enthusiast and the point of the diversity of car culture is the fact that everybody likes something different. And that's what makes it so much fun. But I do know that we're missing the point sometimes when it comes to the balance of cars. Like when I'm going to use the GR Corolla a lot of times in this discussion because that's my reference point because I own the car. The GR Corolla is a perfect example. Me and a friend of mine, Hatchie Brew, Chris, we discuss all the time about how far should you go with the platform, right? And what I mean by that is if you have the means to build out a GR Corolla to the levels that they are doing in the UK and Australia, knock yourself out by all means. Because if I had it, I would do it too. And I'm talking about these 500, 600, 700 horsepower monster crazy builds, dog transmissions, sequentials, just everything. If I had the means to do it, I probably would do it too. But the majority of people, when it comes to cars in general, aren't really doing that. I mean, you find the subset of people that can afford to do such a thing, but a majority of us are just doing simple bolt-ons and just kind of just having fun with the car and keeping a balance. And I say a lot of cars lose balance. When we are thinking about just outright power, I've had people mention about that. And I say if your sole reason of buying a car is based on the horsepower number that it can create, on the mods you can do, you have to go over there to that platform. But you also can't discount as somebody saying 300 horsepower turbo 3-cylinder with a few added bolt-ons is enough for me, and it's the perfect balance of the car, and it's a great time. Somebody that's used to driving 700 horsepower, they're not gonna be hearing that. They're gonna be like, bro, are you serious? No. And that's, to me, is the joys of the diversity of people in the culture, because you find people that are into that and they want to do that, and you're like, you know what, that makes sense for you. But I do know how that kind of spills into the market, right? So in the new car market right now, used cars from that era I'm talking about are becoming at the price they were brand new. Importing RX-7s and Skylines and Silvias and anything that we had wanted for decades and couldn't get are priced at the point of what those cars were brand new that day and age. And then when you get them here, you got to make sure that you got the means to take care of a 25-year-old car. You're not getting pristine unless you're paying pristine dollars. If you're paying a couple 10,000, 20, 30 for a Silvio, when it gets here, it's gonna need some extra things. And so then if you're like, you know what, I wouldn't bother with that. I'm gonna go get something brand new. Then you're like, my options is limited. I only got $25,000. What can I get? You got to go into the used market. And then if you go into the used market, manufacturers don't see us buying new versions of this car. And then they're like, you know what? There ain't nothing there for us. They're not buying them. And I was a person that believed in that enough that I bought the GR Corolla, because when I saw them announce that car, I was like, this is, I still say it, even though they're making different versions. I still say we're on a last run. We're on a last run of what Toyota's doing, what the GR Corolla is, what the WRX is, what the Civic Type R is. I feel like we're on a last run. And the only way that to keep the run going, if it is to be extended, is to buy into it. Meaning, if I'm saying I wanted this car because I was a Subaru STI hatchback owner and fan, when the GR Corolla got announced, and I had a 2011 one. When this got announced, I was like, this is it. I've been wanting another all-wheel drive hatchback. Before that, I had S2000. S2000 is an amazing vehicle, okay? Something that Honda just isn't going to do again. It's just not. It just doesn't match their lineup. There isn't a market for a purpose-built sports car roadster, unfortunately. Because even when it was out, it didn't sell at the rate that we might imagine, even because we're thinking about the used car market and we're thinking about what people do on the aftermarket, and they sell as much. But I don't think that that means that sports cars or cars are just becoming boring. I just think that we're just getting hit in the face with the cost of them. Because if money was no option, if the inflation matched the incomes that we were making, there would be a world of options. And I think the manufacturers are acting in the same way. They're acting in a way of saying the thirty to $40,000 fun sports car range is slim pickings. But if you have $60,000 to $100,000, there is nothing less than multiple options. V8 supercharged, CT5 black wings, M5 wagons, AMGs, Porsche. I mean, like, if you just have the money to spend, dark horses, I mean, you GT500s, you just have a plethora of options. And I've said that before. You drop below 40 and it's slim pickings out here. We're fighting for scraps. You start moving that up to 60, 70, 80, and once you get past 100,000, I mean, like, sky's the limit. I mean, you got options for days to get whatever you want. And I think that's what they were speaking to, and that's why I agree with what they were saying in those videos. And I'm going to talk more about it again in another video I'm going to do. I'm going to do a video in my car talking about this subject matter, because it is true. It is hard to get something fun. A lot of stuff can be boring when you think about the idea of how cars are being built now. Sometimes it can be very numb and isolated, even when it comes to the interior. More screens, less buttons, less engagement, less character, less design, less features, all for the sake of minimalism. And then when it comes to the options we have, it's like you either have underpowered or extreme power. And to fall in the middle, there's only so many options. But that's the sweet spot. That 300 to 400 horsepower range is a sweet spot. That lightweight 250 horsepower to 300 horsepower range is like a forgotten thing. The Mazda Miata is holding the torch down for a concept of a sports car that barely exists anywhere outside of the Miata. Like, lightweight isn't even a thing anymore. People want more power. They want the numbers to say something. That's what the car enthusiasm has done to the market. It's kind of stretched it out where people are like, if those numbers don't say something big like 5, 6, 7, folks ain't hearing it. Like, a lot of times you say you got 300 horsepower, they're like, I mean, cool. My minivan got, like, they just don't want to hear what you have to say. But I think that's all of that together is the pull that has created that type of atmosphere for what the car market for sports and fun cars has done. Not to account for the fact that people don't want to drive manuals, so that's already killing a lot of stuff. The fact that some people have families and SUVs are giving people enough fun, and I say that in quotes, that they will just buy an SUV, X3Ms and Durango Hellcats and these EVs that are SUVs that do 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. Folks are just like, listen, if I want to feel the rush of something, I'll just press the gas pedal. Not accounting for the fact that when we talk about these fun cars, we're talking about the engagement, the visceral experience, the shifting, the drives, the smells, the sounds. I mean, it's so much more than just me pressing a pedal and then going very fast in a straight line, because there is more to it, even in drag racing. Because I think EVs take away from the fact that even if you somebody say, well, what's a drag race? It's a straight line. I'm like, yeah, but drag racing outside of like being in the EV or something that has launch control was about timing, was about your opponent, was about looking at the lights, was about understanding your car to know what the shift points were, what the power point was, holding the throttle a certain way, not putting too much power down in the beginning, understanding the grip. There's a lot of intricacies in drag racing. It wasn't just people just pressing pedals and going straight and holding on. Then you get to the high level, it took skill. And so the cars, to me, that's one of those things that it misses. It misses like the skill aspect of it. It misses the engagement aspect of it because, like I said, manufacturers seeing what people are buying. And if we're not buying the cars that they introduce, then they're going to say there's no reason for us to keep producing it because we can't profitably do that and still maintain being a company. So Toyota making a GR Corolla and it being a success for them, and they're making a GR86 and it being a success, and Honda making a Civic Type R, and Hyundai making a Elantra and it being a success, that bodes well for more options moving into the future. We got the Celica coming back. I don't know if, I mean, we do have the Prelude, and I'm going to include the Prelude in this. I know folks are going to be like, yo, that does not count, CarQuicks. No. But I will include it because they are putting the elements of fun driving into it. And so until I drive it or until we drive it, I can't discount it just yet because it doesn't have maybe a manual transmission or a high-powered engine. Because speaking to what I said before, sometimes it's a matter of engaging the person in another way. Maybe I want to have a spirited drive, but I don't need a lot of power. Maybe I want to look a certain way, but I don't need a whole lot of power. So it just depends on what you're doing and what you're asking for. But if that market that we're in now, that $30,000, $40,000 one, if we keep buying into it, I do think that it can expand more. And Toyota and Honda and other manufacturers are trying to tap into it, but it is small. Honestly, the biggest options we have are in the past. It's the imported cars. It's the things that we didn't have, the things that we longed for in 2003 to 10 and 15 when I didn't have to. I did not have the money in 03 to buy Evo because, trust me, I wanted one badly. A friend of mine, I remember we graduated from the same school, and he got a 2003 WRX Bug-Eye for a graduation gift. I mean, props to his family. But I was like, yeah, I ain't got it. I'll just drive with him. I was like, there's no way I can get one of these. I remember riding in people's Eclipses, DSM eras on the East Coast. I mean, that's what people speak about. They're talking about those days, and unfortunately, that was the glory day of that time, and we're now in a new era, which will be considered a glory day when we move past this. I keep saying that GR Corolla, the GR86, Civic Type Rs, those will be considered classics. We're not there yet, but when this time comes, we're going to be talking about this. When these aren't here, we're going to be like, oh man, we didn't know what we had. We had this, we had Mustangs doing this, we had Corvettes doing this, we had that's what I mean. But what I'm kind of leaning on to in this kind of conversation is more so the market that was in that range of the Evo 8 and the price range of that and what it is today. Because like I said, if you have money to go buy something that costs $70,000 to $100,000, then I mean, like, go ahead, man, knock yourself out. I'd be in a C8 Z06 right now. Okay, so that market I understand, but it's just, it comes with the territory, it comes with life, it comes with the flow of things like inflation and economies and things like that, and maybe it'll change and maybe we'll get something else more and more later and better, and things will start looking up better for those type of markets. But before I get out of here, GR Corolla updates. I don't really have any this week because I didn't do nothing on the car. I've been chilling, but car's running great, it's feeling great. I did a funny little video ad type thing for a company for a part I put on for ShiftPower USA. I threw up on Instagram and YouTube channel just because I liked the product and I wanted to do it. They didn't ask me to do anything of this and weren't even trying to pay me for it. I just like creating stuff, and I just had the idea. So I grabbed my brother-in-law and said, hey, let's take an hour or two to just go shoot this random idea I have. And that's all it took. Edited it. I edited. I can't even speak right now. I made an edit on the video and I put it up on the channel. And so that's all I did. I have other things. I do have other parts coming. They're just not here yet. I do have some other big things coming that I will be putting on the car. Other than that, I've just been driving the car, enjoying it. It's great. I'm going to do a video like I just talked about when I was talking about the whole sports car thing. Might do another long form one just in my car, just driving, just having my own opinions about it while I'm driving the car. And the channel's doing great. I'm loving the progress, loving the support. I appreciate anybody that comes here and listens to this podcast, that spends time watching the YouTube channel. I appreciate all of it. And as I said before, I didn't say it last week, but I kind of miss it sometimes. But as I say, do as you wish and do as you may. It's Cameron Biggs, your host. This was another episode of the CarQuicks Podcast. I will see you all around next week. Peace.